Hello, and thank you for joining me for yet another moment of Private Transformation Minutes. This is Dala, and I'm all the way out here in London, in the UK, and just thought I should just dial in this weekend and share a few thoughts with you. Well, we're talking about developing credible relationships, and our focus during the last few weeks has been on online relationships, specifically on social media. And this is one topic that I think is important for us to fully understand, for us to fully comprehend, considering that every aspect of our lives has been touched by social media one way or the other. Technology seems to be shaping our daily decisions, what we do, how we live, who we interact with, the perceptions that are formed about who we are. All of that is driven mostly by technology, and social media has played a very, very critical role in that process. So I just thought that it was important for us to talk a little bit today about social media and that interaction. Now, why is this so important? I think one thing we must understand, and I think too often people tend to take lightly or misunderstand, is the fact that everything we do on social media has some kind of a repercussion or a reward. This could be positive, it could be negative. It's either adding value to someone or it is taking away from someone. It is either adding to you, the person who is behind the post, behind the decisions, behind the choices, or it is also taken away from you. Now, we don't realize that social media is an extension of who we are, it's an extension of our true lives. Social media is just not something we do separate from who we are. It has become a platform that defines who you are. Now, I realize that too often people tend to share something that they do not even think about how it would impact them on the long run. We don't realize that there's always someone watching you. There's always someone learning from you. There's someone always observing you. It's really interesting to find, especially, let me take a step back here and try to lay a quick foundation. The goal behind developing credible relationships is so that you can be able to have a platform, to extend your network, to impact the lives of other people, to make a difference in your community or within your sphere of influence. But you cannot make a difference, you cannot influence or change the position and decisions of others if they cannot listen to you. And too often, listening to you is often a product or is often a fallout from who they think you are. Are you making sense? Does your positions ascribe to theirs? Are they in agreement with the things that you say? And what most people do not realize is that your history on social media is often a reflection of who people perceive you to be. The thread that you leave behind, the footprints that you've left over the last few months and weeks is often what people use to determine who you are. So, in building credible relationships, it is always imperative, it is always important for you to ask yourself, do I necessarily have to post this? Do I have to share this? What does this agree with my values on a long term? Does this even reflect what I believe, overall? Let me give you a classic example. During the last presidential elections in the United States, you could see that emotions were high. I mean, there were the core staunch Donald Trump supporters and there were the sold out Hillary supporters. And everybody was everybody forgot the fact that life goes on after November 9th. And so everybody was posting whatever they believed. Emotions were driving decisions. People did not care what any other person thought. All that mattered was they wanted to express their political viewpoint. But you have to understand something, that as a mentor, as a leader, or as a person who's just living your lives, you have to interact with other people at one point or the other. It simply means that those viewpoints that you do not even realize have some kind of an impact overall will come into play a year, 2 years from that time. Why? Because God may forget, but people never forget. People will tend to shape or define who you are based on the things that you post online. So just because you are emotionally charged at a point in time does not necessarily mean that you should make that post. Maybe perhaps you should stop for a moment and think, is this really the picture that Okay, looks like we're back online. For a brief moment, we lost our connection there. So, the point I was trying to make is that whenever you post anything online, it is always important for you to ask yourself this question: is this a position that I'm willing to live by for the next 10, 20, 50 years? Because whatever you post online is out there, it doesn't go away. Recently we heard about some folks who made predictions or prophecies, as it were, about the elections, and when it turned out things did not align with what they said, they were online, basically scrambling to delete the things that they've posted or the things that they've said. Now, that went a long way to not only erode their credibility, but the interesting thing is that with a digital footprint, it can be found at any point in time. So before you knew it, videos of the same things that they've been busy trying to scrub began to surface. Why? Because in a technologically driven age, you cannot hide everything. So it is very important for you, as someone who is trying to develop credible relationships, to always think before you post. Does everybody benefit from this? Everything may be expedient, it may be lawful, but it is not necessarily expedient. You have to ask yourself, whom am I alienating by this decision? Do I necessarily have to comment on everything? Do I necessarily have to express my viewpoint on everything? Do I necessarily have to have something to say about everything? Do I have to share everything that I enjoy? You must remember, and I said this a few weeks ago, that your interaction online must always be intentional. Don't do anything for the sake of doing it. Everything you do must have an intention. It must have a goal in mind. It must be shooting towards accomplishing a specific goal. If that is not driven by your actions online, then you will by all means be doing all kind of stuff, some of which you will end up regretting over time. So it is very important for you to understand that in developing credible relationships, specifically online and especially on social media, it is important for you to be deliberate. It is important for you to be intentional. It is also important for you to evaluate everything that you post. Is this a picture or the person that I want to portray over a period of time? Am I going to be comfortable? Am I okay with my children or my children's children or my mentors or my family seeing this post? Is this all for me? So it is always very important for us to always take a minute to think critically about the things that we post online. Social media has become an extension of our lives. It is important for you to realize that people will use what you post, what you share, what you do online to determine who you are, to define how they interact with you. And in order for you to be sure that relationships actually produce the outcomes that you want, then you have to be very, very cautious and careful and pay attention to the things that you do online, how and when you do them. So I hope that is something worth thinking about. Well, with just those few nuggets, I'm just going to let you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and while I sign off here, and I look forward to connecting with you again next week on another moment of Private Transformation Minutes. So God bless you. Have a great weekend, and I will look forward to talking to you again very soon.